Hi and welcome to another short video. I got asked in the comments to make a video about my settings for playing Terraforming Mars online, so here they are. I play without the confirmation pop-up, since with that setting enabled, you get asked after every single action if you are sure you want to perform it. In my opinion, that's unnecessary and slows the game down too much. Starting with the creation of this video, I will play without the parameter alert. This feature got implemented relatively recently and surely can be nice for newer players that might not notice when a parameter gets maxed out, but I just find it annoying. A card like Large Convoy is very much playable even when all oceans are placed already, and I don't need to be remembered about it. I had this enabled in the past since I didn't know you could turn it off. Just so you know, for some reason you can only change this option in-game and not in the main menu. I also play without the closing pop-up enabled, but I honestly have no idea what this option does. It's another setting that does not exist in the main menu, but only in-game, and here we have no tooltips for the settings. If anyone knows more, please let us know in the comments. Next up, I play with automatic end turn. This means that when you have performed two actions, you automatically end your turn. Since you cannot undo your actions anyways, this option seems only logical to me, and saves a lot of time. If you struggle with the game timer, try this. Same reasoning goes for the next two settings. I allow for the opponent's turns and actions to be immediately and automatically be displayed. This of course also means that I can miss some actions if I'm not constantly looking at the screen, but keep in mind that there's a log that you can use to keep track of what your opponents are doing. Next up, I disable planet motion. This is just personal preference, but I think the planet motion when moving the mouse around is extremely annoying. And besides, you can still move the planet by clicking and dragging if you really want to. Lastly, I play with the animation speed skip mine. This is the fastest speed setting and also skips your animations entirely. Since you know what you're doing yourself anyways, that's completely fine in my opinion. This setting also helps save a lot of time if you're playing with a timer. Also keep in mind that if you're really close on time, you can switch to skip all to also skip the opponent's animations, and this will help shave off another few seconds. But it is kinda annoying to keep track of what your opponent is doing with that setting, so I don't like it all the time. Now that we're done with the gameplay settings, I will also talk about my preferred multiplayer settings as well. Firstly, I obviously like to play with draft since it adds another element of strategy and limits RNG. I never play without corporate error since I don't like starting with one of each production, and I also don't want to limit the size of the base game deck. In terms of expansions, I think Prelude is pretty much essential, while Venus is just something I select from time to time to change it up a bit. For maps, I rotate around a lot, but I do think Tharsis is the most fair map. Solar Phase is something I never enable when playing without Venus, but when playing with that expansion, I use it in about 50% of games to change it up. I almost always play with the corps that correspond to the expansions I'm playing with, but there's a real argument to always disable Prelude and Venus Next corps. The former are all quite strong, and especially Vito and Point Luna can be quite oppressive. In Venus Next, one corp especially is just busted and super unfun to play against: Manutech. Let's talk about Highlight Draw. If you enable it, you have the choice of clicking on the Prelude and/or Venus Next symbol. While Standard Draw always offers you 2 random corps out of the pool of enabled ones, you will get 1 expansion corp guaranteed if you enable Highlight Draw. But how does it work exactly? If you enable just Prelude Highlight Draw, you get 1 Prelude corp guaranteed, and the other choice can be anything out of the enabled corps, even another Prelude corp. Same thing if you enable just Venus Next Highlight Draw, just for Venus Next. If you enable both expansions for Highlight Draw, you will get 1 corp that's either from Venus or Preludes and 1 random corp. Then, when it comes to projects, I just always play with the projects corresponding to the enabled expansions. Down here, you have 4 more gameplay options that are crucial to consider. Obviously, you can choose between ranked or unranked, as well as the timer that each player gets to finish their game. I feel like 45 minutes is often enough if everyone knows what they're doing. The karma level option is a safeguard against toxic players that forfeit, leave the game, or worst of all, go AFK and let their timer run out. You increase your karma level by completing games and decrease it by leaving or forfeiting games. So choose karma 5 to only match up with players that are less likely to leave or rage quit your game. And lastly, I can strongly recommend playing with AI sub off. Sure, it sucks when someone goes AFK or leaves the game and you have to wait out his timer. But that can somewhat be mitigated by playing on Karma 5, and playing with AI sub disabled prevents something even more annoying that, at least in the past, happened to me far more often than leaving opponents. When the game for some reason gets stuck and you need to rejoin, or your internet connection just cuts out for a second, the AI takes over and does incredibly stupid shit if you don't play with AI sub off. These plays can ruin your game plan, and therefore I highly recommend only joining games with AI sub off. But that was it. All my settings in Terraforming Mars and why I chose them the way I did. Do your settings differ to mine, and if so, why? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, please leave a like and consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.